Radio Free Santa Clarita presents the Talk of Santa Clarita, a podcast about issues involving Santa Clarita and the surrounding valley. Episode 134, actress, veteran, private detective, and jack of all trades, Jennifer Marshall. And now, let's see what the Talk of Santa Clarita is.
And remember, this is for posterity, so be honest.
Jennifer Marshall, welcome to the Talk of Santa Clarita.
Hi, thank you for having me, Stephen.
Yeah. This is it's kind of funny that I guess it was your publicist that just contacted me out of the blue.
Yes. She's a very nice woman who helps me. I don't think she would say that she's a publicist, but I would say she's a publicist.
Okay. Yes. She's by default.
Yes, she's by default publicist.
Yeah, she sent me a list of the things you've done, and I was immediately intrigued with some of the stuff that you've been doing, and your history as well. I think it's. I mean, you've done a lot of different things in your life, and
I have,
and now you're an actress. I'm probably best known for Stranger Things, right? Mm-hmm. You were the second season.
Yes, I play Max's mom.
I have not seen the second season yet. Now, are you in it much, or?
I'm in the last two episodes.
Okay.
Max is a character that's introduced because 11. Well, spoiler alert, but 11's kind of away, and so Max comes in to be kind of the girl in the group, and she has a very tumultuous family life with her stepbrother Billy and her stepfather and me. So that relationship is explored in episode 8.
Now, did you make season 3?
So season 3, what happened was I had knee surgery, and so I had let them know that I was going to have knee surgery. There is one episode, the 6th episode, that Will, who plays my husband, is in. And I believe that was the episode that I was supposed to shoot. I won't go into it for people who haven't seen it because I don't want to spoil. But I was so bummed. There was no way I could wait to have my knee surgery, but I was bummed because it's an amazing set, and any chance I have to be on it, I would jump at, of course.
They filmed that in North Carolina, don't they?
Atlanta.
Atlanta, okay. There's a lot of filming in that area now.
Oh, there's so much.
Yeah. Is it weird? Do you get recognized a lot for that show, or for other things you've done, or?
For that show, no, because even casting directors who knew me here, in person, a casting director had said to me, I didn't recognize you because on that show you're so powerless. I'm very much a victim. And he said, in person you're so powerful. Like, you look like you just ripped somebody's head off, and so no, I don't get recognized for that, but I was a spokesperson for a mortgage company for years, and people would come up to me all the time and recognize me from that. So since the show that I'm on now, Mysteries Decoded, has premiered, it's become more common, people saying, are you that girl on that CW show? So at that time, I hope I always look my best when I am recognized.
We'll talk about the new show in a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit about some of the other things that intrigued me about you. The first thing is that you did a lot in high school. You grew up in Colorado, right? Is that correct?
I did, yes.
And I have to know. I read this off the IMDb thing, and I have to know: do you write your own bios on the IMDb? Do the actors write, or the publicist, or somebody? Because it was very detailed.
It depends. I think the latest one, you provide one to your manager,
right.
And then your manager takes care of it. So because if you don't, and if you don't provide a birth date, somebody can just go in there and do it for you.
Really?
And for me, I never want to misrepresent myself. So I definitely was like, yes, let me write this. Because 20 years from now, they said, oh, you were doing this. This isn't true. Well, somebody else wrote it for me.
Right.
I'm very much a person, when I say something, I mean it. I'm a person of my word, and so I would never want to be misrepresented.
The first thing I noticed was the high school stuff and all the things that you were doing in high school. And I thought, this is a person I wouldn't like.
I will say this, though. Everybody says, oh, you were a cheerleader in high school, you were this. I'm like, The cheerleaders at my high school, we were the nerds.
Really?
Yes, we were the dance team.
Yeah.
They were the cool people.
Okay.
We were just whatever.
Right.
So at that point, it was a high school. There were 380 people who went there. There were 79 in my graduating class. It was a one-stoplight town. So I said, let me just do as much as I can, because freshman year I had come from a very large high school where all I could do was play basketball. The competition was so tough.
Right.
So when I moved out to Carbondale, which is the town where I'm from, I said, I'm just going to do everything. And I did.
You did, yeah, clearly.
I did.
You were also the kid that went, teacher, you forgot to take up the homework, right?
No, I was not that kid. I was the kid who was talking, because I also worked. So I moved out when I was in high school of my parents' house.
Oh, really?
And so I worked as a certified nursing assistant at a local assisted living nursing home dementia secure unit.
May I ask why you moved out? Was there family issues?
There were family issues, and I was very, very strong-willed. And my father ruled with an iron fist, and so it just did not.
Well, the reason I bring that up is, like, I mean, if you watch, Inside the Actor Studio with James Lipton and things like that, one of the common things that seems to happen with a lot of people that become actors is that they show an independent streak very early on in their life, where they move out very early, or they're army brats. I mean, it's almost it's one of the two, usually a broken home, or they moved out early, or they're army brats and they were traveling all over the country, constantly moving. I mean, do you think that contributes a little bit to why you want to be an actor? Or
no, I don't think that was it. I fell into acting almost as an afterthought. I mean, if you would have told me when I left the military, you're going to be on Netflix's #1 rated show in 15 years, I would have laughed you out of the room. There's no, that was not a thing for somebody of my socioeconomic background.
Right.
That was not even a thought process. So when people said, I want to be an actor when I was 8, I remember as a kid thinking, how can I not go to jail? That's really what I thought, because people in my neighborhood, people went to jail, and I knew so many people who had brothers and sisters or parents that were locked up. And it's not necessarily that I lived in a bad part of town, it was just a poorer area. And so I thought when I was a kid, everybody goes to jail, you just do it, you do your stint, you get out. I maybe not everybody, but a large percentage of the population. And then when I grew up, I thought, boy, that was idiotic. I've never even been close to going to jail. This is insane.
The way you describe it sounds like it was camp for everybody.
Sure.
It's like everybody does their time and then they move on.
And summer camp was a completely unknown thing to me, because that was something for people with money. We didn't have camp. I remember paying for my own basketball camp. I've worked since I was 13.
Wow.
I had a work permit. I worked in a hair salon as a receptionist. Then I worked at Subway. Then I became a nursing assistant. I have always worked. So when it was time to pay for basketball camp, $275 for the week. I paid for all of that. And the kids that I went to school with, their parents paid for all of it. Their parents drove them up there. So we came from two entirely different worlds.
Well, that independence thing, maybe it made you a workaholic. Maybe that is one of the reasons you've, been able to persevere on and as an actor in your careers and things.
I would say it was a blessing, because we were just poor enough where we could get food at the food bank, clothes at the clothes bank, free lunches, but we weren't eligible for welfare. So we were just poor enough to where the basic needs were not taken care of.
Right.
And it really put a fire under my butt, because I remember my mother saying to me, don't get a work permit, you're gonna have to work your whole life. I loved working, and I'm so glad that I did, because I never had to go without. After I started working, I was in charge of my money and what I could do with it. So it was very empowering.
Now that you finished high school and immediately enlist in the Navy, what was the motivation behind that? Not that there's anything wrong with it. I just, I've never had a desire to be in the military.
I was the complete opposite. I saw that as my way out.
Okay.
And I was one of 9 veterans in my family. I was a 5th generation veteran. So someone was going to join. My parents thought it would be one of my brothers. It wasn't. It was me. So literally my junior year of high school, a recruiter called me out of the blue and he said, Jennifer, let me talk to you about the Navy. I said, okay. when can we sign up? I'm good. And he said, no, I really want to tell you about the jobs. And I said, no, I just want to know when we can go down. And he was like, wait. And I said, no, I'm a sure thing. You don't have to sell me on anything. You're the first recruiter who calls me. Let's just do this.
Really?
Yes. And so later other recruiters had called me and I said, I'm sorry. I said, I'm already signed up for the Navy. And so I was 17. I brought the paperwork to my mom and they were like, absolutely not. We're not signing this. And I said, well, here's the deal. If you don't sign it, I lied. I said, I can go anyway and enlist, which was not true, and I will get some crap job. You know, I'll be chipping paint off the side of a boat or something. I really need to get a good job, and I need you to sign this so I can get one, because I wanted to go in as a corpsman and I wanted to do the medical route. So they said, okay, we'll sign this, but do not enlist. I said, no, I'm good, I won't. And by this time was I living at home? It was just around the time I moved out. And they signed it and I came back and I said I enlisted. And they said, we don't want to see you.
Really? Oh man, that must have been hard.
I called and I called my best friend and I went over to her house and she said, what happened? And I said, well, they pretty much just cut off the relationship. And my dad said, you'll never make it and you'll be home in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I didn't come home for 2 years.
Wow. Showed them.
I showed them. And my mother, ironically, she's so proud of my military service now, and she came around very quickly. But, you know, parents worry about their kids. I get it.
Yeah. But I mean, to take that attitude, I mean, I thought my parents were tough on me when I got my ear pierced. So, but I mean, I mean, you say it was your way out. You saw it as a way out. I mean, college was an option, or?
Oh no, there was not one thin dime for college. There was barely money for food. There's no money for college. None of that. And to be honest with you, I never thought I would graduate from college. I joined, and we have to give $100 a month our first 13 months serving to get the Montgomery GI Bill, which has since been replaced with the post 9/11 GI Bill. And I remember thinking, I'm going to turn this down because I'll never go to college. I'm not smart enough. I'll never finish. I almost dropped out of high school because I was working, trying to go to high school, pay rent. I was living on somebody's floor.
Right.
I had a roommate, but I didn't have a bed. I didn't have anything. And so I was this close to dropping out of high school. There's no way that I would ever finish college. So then when I got out of the military and I went to college and now I have my master's degree, that is something that never would have happened for Jennifer Marshall, ever. It was not a possibility.
When I was reading your bio, you were in the Navy for what, 5 years? Is that right? 5 years? And you were actually involved with the Iraq War.
I was.
Did you actually see combat, or I don't know what a Navy person would?
Well, we deploy in a combat zone. I guess technically we fit that definition. I would never claim that because my brothers and sisters serving on the ground, that's a whole different sort of thing. But we were in the Mediterranean. We were one of the first ships, the USS Roosevelt, in tandem with the USS Harry Truman. We were one of the first battle groups there during Operation Iraqi Freedom. And we got all the inoculations to go with that. So it's funny because I'll see someone with the smallpox vaccine in their arm, and I know that they were either in the military, if they're my age, or they were born abroad. We got that because they thought that they would release smallpox, they would release anthrax, so I received 5 of the 6 anthrax inoculations, and that's ultimately what led to me having to leave the military, because I was very ill from from the anthrax, not the smallpox.
I asked, we had Mike Garcia, candidate for Congress, on a couple of weeks ago, and he was in the Iraq War as well. And I can't help but, as an actress, I know you probably don't want to talk about politics too much, but I'm just curious, because that was a controversial war, did you ever take a step back and kind of go, what are we doing? Or should we be doing this? Or
after the fact, for sure.
Yeah.
During the time, you don't think of that, because if you are 18, 19, 20, you have blind faith in your government that they're doing what is best. Do I think that do I think George Bush and Dick Cheney were sitting in a corner going, ha 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 ha? No, I don't believe that. Do I think that there was intelligence that led them to believe something and they assumed a worst case scenario? Absolutely. I think as somebody who always assumes worst case scenario and plans for that, I can kind of understand that, because imagine if they said, okay, well, we have this intelligence, but who knows? And then something massive happens. Then you have the other side of it, which is they're not paying attention to intelligence. So it's a difficult position to be in. I can't say that the war was right or wrong. Who is to say that? But I can say that a dictator was taken out who was very horrible to his people, tortured his own people, and I am thankful for that. My heart bleeds for the soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen that we lost, of course. Yeah. It's unfortunate.
One of the other things I saw on your bio was you worked with sexual assault victims.
Yes.
Tell me about that, and with what was it exactly?
So when I was on the USS Theodore Roosevelt, which was a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier home-ported in Norfolk, Virginia, now it's in San Diego, I was on the sexual assault victim intervention team. So I was an advocate. So when a sailor came forward and said I was sexually assaulted, I was raped, even sexually harassed, they would come to us and we would be their advocate throughout the process. Back in the early 2000s, the military was not like it is now. They did not take most cases of sexual assault very seriously.
Right.
That was a problem, and I felt very empowered by being an advocate for these mainly women, but a few men. At the time I was serving, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was in effect, so you would have men who had suffered sexual assaults or being grabbed or being jostled by members of the opposite sex because they were thought to be gay, and they couldn't come forward and say, well, this is why this person did this, because it was Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So to me, it was very important to take care of my sailors as best as I could.
What are your thoughts on the current status of the military with that? I mean, it seems, I think it was Jody Ernst, the senator, that stepped forward and said that she suffered from sexual assault.
I don't know if she did. I know Martha McSally did.
Okay. And I thought, well, maybe I'm wrong.
It could have been her as well.
I could be completely wrong.
But with McSally, it surprised me because of her rank. She was so high-ranking, and it still happened.
Really? Yeah. But there have been a lot of women in Congress that have been really advocating to change things. But there's an argument that not enough's been done. Do you think enough's been done, or do you think there needs to be more work, or?
I think the work honestly needs to be done at home. I think we need to do a better job of raising our boys, because we do an amazing job at raising our girls. This is how you dress, this is how you act, this is modesty, these are the danger signs to watch out for. And we don't do enough in raising our boys to say anything less than an emphatic yes is a no. And I had this conversation with my then 13-year-old, who's now 14, and I said, what if a girl says, oh sure, that sounds okay. What does that mean? He said, oh, it means sure. I said, no, it doesn't. It means no. What if a girl says, yeah? Oh, it means yeah. No, it doesn't. Anything other than yes right now means no.
Right.
And when it's a lot of hyper-masculine and alpha-type females who join the military. So when you're put in this environment where there's a lot of men and there's a lot of just masculine-type stuff going on, and maybe they haven't been raised the best, those things happen. And I know in my case, my command wanted to push it under the rug and say, you should have handled this yourself. How dare you come forward and embarrass us? Right. Rather than taking the perpetrator and saying, you are scum of the earth, you don't belong in this Navy, get out. So I think there's a lot of passing of the buck, and I think that it needs to be taken out of the hands of commands, because if a sexual assault happens, maybe that's not how the captain runs his base. Maybe it's just this rogue person who's a horrible person, as in society. But it always goes back to the command. So of course, many commands want to bury it because they think it's indicative of leadership. Is it sometimes? Absolutely. Other times, I'm not necessarily sold on that. At my command, there wasn't an atmosphere of sexual assault. There wasn't this atmosphere of allowing this, but it happened anyway. So do I think it's reflective of my command? Absolutely not. But how they handled it was not appropriate either.
Good answer.
I'm very passionate about it. And
I can tell.
I'm very passionate about, I was the keynote speaker at the Arizona Women's Veterans Conference, and I'm very passionate about helping these women move from victimhood to survivor. And I tell them, if you allow this person to dictate the rest of your life, they have won. because you have to let it go. You have to say, you know what, this is something that happened to me. This does not absolutely define me in any way.
Absolutely, absolutely. So after the Navy, did you move to Santa Clarita or what?
No, I stayed in Virginia. My husband was still in. My husband was at 15 years, so we certainly were not going to get out that close to retirement. He stayed in, and then he made chief, petty officer, which is a big thing in the Navy. And he said, you know, I want to go out to sea as a chief, but I need someone to take care of the kids. And they were my stepdaughters. They lived with us. But that's a lot to ask your spouse. Hey, you want to be a single parent just because I want to leave? I want to deploy? And being a veteran myself, I understood what that meant to be a chief at sea. And I said, absolutely. So he left. He was gone for 6 months. We ended up doing another deployment. There was 1 year in 2010. He was gone 332 days that year.
Wow.
It was horrible. So I would never want to do that again. I actually, besides loving my husband, I actually like my husband. So I want to hang out with him. So for him to be gone that long was terrible. So he ended up retiring in 2011, and we moved out here then.
Why did you choose Santa Clarita?
Oh my gosh. We came out to Los Angeles, and we were looking at great places to live, and there were some websites at that time that were really promoting Santa Clarita. And we came out here, and I fell in love with it. We looked at Torrance, we looked at Simi Valley, we looked at Hollywood, North Hollywood. Santa Clarita was just the place for us. And we moved out, and I immediately felt at home. I love this community. I love how family friendly it is. I love how supportive of the military we are. We actually moved away in 2015. We moved to North Hollywood because I was auditioning every day, and it was just hard to make the commute. We lived down there for 2 years, and I said, you know what, this is not for us. And we moved back. And we lost money in that move because we had to pay closing costs, and my husband was not happy because to him real estate is an investment. But I wanted to be back here so badly, and I'm so thankful to be back.
What is it about this town? I mean, in general, that appeals to you?
You know, one thing that I missed in North Hollywood was just being able to talk to your neighbors. Our neighborhood in North Hollywood, it was super diverse, and I liked that, but everybody just kept to themselves. We kept trying to, say, hey, let's hang out, let's talk, and nobody wanted to talk, nobody wanted to hang out. Our neighborhood in Stevenson Ranch, it's less diverse than it would be in North Hollywood, but everybody talks.
Yeah, I think that Santa Clarita definitely has, even though it's getting to be a pretty large city, it still has kind of that Mayberry kind of attitude about it. The joke I've said is like, if you see somebody on the Paseos, you'll wave or say hello, and as you walk by them.
You do.
And in Hollywood, if you're walking, you put your head down. You don't.
And if you wave, you're that weirdo.
Yeah, you're that weirdo. That's right. I lived in Hollywood for I think 12 years, and I told my wife the way I could walk around late at night is I'd wave and smile at people.
Right? So people know to stay away from you.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was another thing I loved about Santa Clarita was I could go running at 2 a.m. I used to go running up Golden Valley Road at 2 a.m.
Wow.
And I'm not going to say you don't have to worry about it because there's bad people everywhere.
Yeah.
But I certainly would not go running in North Hollywood at 2 a.m. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I do it in Santa Clarita with one earbud in, paying attention to what's going on. North Hollywood, I wouldn't even do it with a mace and a knife, and couldn't pay me enough.
Why did you? I was intrigued with. First off, let me ask you this. One of the things I did see about the Navy thing was you were part of a pinup.
Yes.
What was that exactly?
So this happened after the Navy. I'm a very proud ambassador of a congressionally recognized nonprofit called Pinups for Vets.
Okay.
And we dress up as World War II era pinup girls, and we do have some male ambassadors. They wear the bow ties, the suspenders, sometimes an older uniform, a vintage uniform. And we visit veterans in hospitals and nursing homes and wounded warrior detachments. And the cool thing is most of the volunteers are female veterans.
Oh, okay.
So not only are we giving back to the veteran community, which that is my favorite day of the month. When we get to go talk to vets, it's such a wonderful experience. You walk into the room and sometimes people haven't had visitors, in days, months, sometimes ever. So you walk in, you're talking to them, they realize we're vets. It's like, oh, we start talking. And it's a wonderful experience. And then the fact that most of us are female veterans, we have a few wives and a few patriotic civilians, but that has allowed me to connect with my sisters after leaving. And a lot of vets struggle when they leave because we miss the camaraderie, and there's no way to replicate that. So if there's a veteran listening who's struggling, you have to find your crew. You have to go to the VFW, go to the American Legion. You know, if you're a younger vet, make it young. Invite your friends. Team Red, White, and Blue, Team Rubicon. There's a lot of organizations out there. We have a Santa Clarita Veterans page. We have a Santa Clarita Veterans Center on Lions. So find your tribe, because if you're feeling that way, I'm sure other veterans are feeling that way as well, and we need to band together.
Yeah, it is interesting how the veterans are kind of a unique family of their own. You know, I mean, there is a like you said, the camaraderie, the certain kind of loyalty to each other that you know, an average civilian can't really understand, I suppose.
There's nothing in the world that I could explain to somebody, maybe with the exception of law enforcement or firefighting, maybe first responders. There's nothing like knowing you're serving with somebody who would give their life for you, which is why I am so against a draft of any sort. I think ideally for equal rights, you should have men and women sign up for the draft, because you can't say women should be in special forces, oh, but we don't want to, you know, have them sign up for selective service. You can't have it both ways. But ideally, I don't agree with the draft at all, because if I'm there, you know, and we call it in the shit, pardon my French, you want somebody who's going to be there. And you don't want to have to worry about, do they want to be here? And I served before 9/11. I served from 99 to 04. So I remember when 9/11 happened, we had people at my command who said, oh, I'm a conscientious objector, I'm just here for college. That's not how that works. You're in the military, now we have to go to war, and that's it. You've got to go.
And that is why I never served.
and
that
I
whole
appreciate
idea
that.
of you know, I joke a lot about saying, well, it was the latrine issue, but the whole issue of being in war, that whole possibility just scared me to death. You know, I mean, what is the joke in Stripes? You know, hey, if I was in the military, I'd be right behind you, man. But yeah, kudos to you, and actually anybody that served. You know, it's more than I could ever do. So, and I certainly respect you guys. But you and I are actually part of a different type of family, I think, because you brought up that you wanted to talk a little bit about adoption. And my son is adopted, and you have 4 children.
I do.
And all of them are adopted as well.
My oldest 2 are my stepdaughters. So, and I've been their mom since they were 7 and 9, and then my boys are adopted as well.
That's, I think it's really commendable to I mean, one was enough for us, you know.
We're trying to do one more. So
really?
We just seal it at 5. We are, because I feel like I've got to give these ovaries a good shot before I'm too old. So my husband's pushing 50, so he's not really like, you know, he'll be excited when it happens, but right now he's like, well, I'm pushing 50 here. I'm like, it's all right. It's all in your head. It's fine. Age is just a number.
How old are your 2 youngest?
They're 14 and 5.
14 and 5. And you were saying to me that earlier that the girls are full grown now.
Oh, they're grown. My oldest is married.
No, really?
So they're 25 and 23. They're full grown. Although my 23-year-old likes to pretend she's not full grown, and she'll say, hey, I need this clothing subscription, or send me some money for this. I'm like, no, you're the grown child. You don't get any of these things.
What was the motivation to adopt again after the 2 girls had grown?
Well, you know, I was never really on board with having kids, because I just thought, somebody like me, I would mess these kids up. I can't do this. I'm not down for procreation. This is not a thing. So after we raised them, I thought, gosh, I'm pretty darn good at this. I am good at being a parent. So, you know, definitely not perfect, but yeah, I thought we did a pretty good job. So my youngest son, I was volunteering abroad in Uganda, and I was working with an NGO. They had tried to get teachers to come out to this area with no electricity, no plumbing, and I'm never a fan of voluntourism. So voluntourism is where you go and you build something. You're taking jobs from construction people there. It's a very fine line, so you have to work with a very reputable NGO to make sure you're not replacing a local person's work. But in this particular village, the teachers in Uganda and in other parts of East Africa, they tend to go where the money is. So they tend to go to Kampala or Entebbe or somewhere where, they can be paid very well. So they weren't having a lot of teachers come out there, and they said, well, do you have any experience teaching? And I said, well, as a grad student, I taught undergrad. I taught this one class, but I'm a mom. And so they said, okay, can you do a lesson plan? Yeah, absolutely. So I went out there and I volunteered in 2013. I went back in 2014, and there were so many orphans there, so many. Yeah. And in Uganda, if a child only has one parent, they're considered an orphan because you really can't make ends meet with one parent. So you have orphanages filled with children who have one parent, some have 0 parents, and it's just a really difficult society. Birth control is not widely used, and to be fair, I didn't understand this for the longest time, but I would see a woman who had 8 children, and some of them were not under her care, and she was excited to be pregnant. That would be stressful for me. But I soon learned that was the only blessing. We have things, we have a college graduation, we have, a niece going into the military. We have these milestones that we can, a lot of them don't have that. So she was pregnant, and she said, this is a blessing from God, and I soon started to see why it was that way. But I went home and I was really frustrated by the amount of orphans there were, and my husband and I had been looking at adoption, and I said, what about Uganda? And he said, I don't know, and we were very hesitant about adopting an African-American child. Can we do this?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
It was something we struggled with, and I asked a lot of my friends, and they said, if you can't do it, who could do it? You guys are a mixed couple. Your husband's Hispanic, you're white. You guys have friends all across the spectrum, why not? And the fact that you even know that could be a possibility, adopting outside your race, because a lot of people just do it and say, love will prevail. It's not that easy. There's a lot of issues that go into that. So they had hooked us up with a referral, my adoption agency, and I said, no, I understand what orphan means in this country, but I'm not going to take a child outside the country who has a parent there. That's not fair. Right. That's not okay. I said, a legitimate orphan, no family able to be found. So that's how we got the referral. My son, I don't want to give his story, but he did not have a family, and so that's how we were matched up.
And what about the other boy?
My other son, my youngest son was home for less than a year, and there's a hosting program through some adoption agencies where you bring a child in for a summer or a holiday, and it's an older child. That way you can see if they're a fit for your family. Sure, yeah. Lots of people adopt sight unseen, and you really can't do that with older children because they are their own person, and they have their way. They've developed a little bit, and yes. Yeah, absolutely. So we hosted him, and I thought, oh my gosh, we're not ready to adopt, but he fits in our family. My son was 3 at the time. He immediately fell in love with him, and he was just a fit. So we filled out the paperwork to adopt, and we asked them to waive the 1-year requirement, and we brought him home in 2017. Wow. And my oldest son is from Colombia, which is where my husband was born. Oh, okay, okay. Is how do you approach the African American boy? I mean, as far as obviously, he knows he's adopted. I mean, do you talk to him about his roots and his heritage and stuff like that much, or do you address that? Or well, we definitely talk about Uganda. So he knows he's from Uganda. He will tell you. We want to take him back when he's a little bit older to understand. He doesn't quite grasp what adoption means. I've explained to him, you grew in mom's heart instead of her body. That's exactly what we tell our kid. And so, and his name when he was in Uganda was different. He had a female name, which is what the orphanage named him, and we moved that to his middle name because here it's not a name that anybody would know. So his name was Sanyu, which means happiness in Luganda. And so I would say to him, you were my Sanyu baby. And so he knows that you were my happiness baby. Right. And we brought you, and we love you, and we'll be your mommy and daddy forever. But he's just now picking up on, mom looks like Anna on Frozen, and I look like Black Panther. So that's how he... Yeah. That's how he figures it out in his brain. So we certainly talk to him about it, but he's not at the age where he would say, I had birth parents, I had another mommy. He's not processing that yet.
Yeah, we've always been very open about with our child about things, but as he's getting older, he's starting to grasp a little bit more and things like that, and what the terms mean, and and coming in, and then we take the approach of like saying, well, you're special because your birth mother loved you enough to make sure you had a good home.
Yes.
But I mean, I think there is kind of I think you wanted to talk about it a little bit because you thought there might be some people have stigmas about it, or?
Yeah, I would say, as women, I didn't adopt because I was infertile. I just adopted because it's something that I wanted to do. But in our adoption community, there's this thing with women, because people are well-meaning, but they'll say, they'll ask me, when are you going to have your own children? And I'll just look at them confused and say, what do you mean? These aren't mine? Oh man, I've been paying for them this whole time.
Right.
I pay for daycare and I pick them up and I love them and kiss their boo-boos. These aren't mine, whose are they?
Right.
So I would say, just as a gentle reminder to people, if you're talking to someone, you don't know what their reasoning is. It could be that they're infertile, it could be that they're not, and you run the risk of really opening a wound for somebody. So I would say celebrate their family as is. Another thing that we can do is, instead of saying, oh, your mom gave you up for adoption, the terminology is, I was placed for adoption, or I want to place my child for adoption. One of my friends who's adopted told me the funniest story. He said his siblings used to make fun of him when he was younger. This was 40 years ago, and say, you're adopted, and he would come back with, yeah, well, mom got to choose me, you just popped out of her. Which I think is a great way to handle that. But I would say, the community's been really
there is a
really
kind of
great.
a unique, that's what I was saying about a family, there is a kind of a bonding with people when you meet other parents that have adopted as well, and because there is the stories to tell about how you ended up with the child in the first place, and the experiences of bringing them home and things, and even how you talk to them about the adoption itself. There's definitely a kinship. See, I'm already bonding with you.
Absolutely.
So
And you know what, I do want to say, because I'm sure there's people listening, maybe they've never had children or they're empty nesters. I was involved with foster care. I'd gone through the CASA program, which is court-appointed special advocate, which is basically somebody who advocates on behalf of the child. And I ended up leaving that program because we were adopting and it was a conflict of interest. But I would say, if you are older and you say, there's so many kids in the system, you don't have to be a perfect parent. You just have to make the choice to love.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in it, if you think about it, there's no reason you can't foster, and sometimes that fostering turns to adoption. There are so many kids who just want a chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they deserve a chance.
I used to work with at-risk youth, and I know you would talk to them about how they bounced around between these foster care programs, and then occasionally I would meet one that where the foster care system, the foster parents really worked out with them, and they stayed and grew up with them. And not that I know much about parenting, although my kid's pretty awesome. But I mean, I think ultimately, that's like the secret of parenting, is that you just love them. You know what I mean? It's not even about giving them good advice. It's just loving them, letting them know that they're loved, and they'll be okay.
My son had, my 14-year-old. Some of the parents in our adoption group said, "You guys are so hard on him." I said, we only have 6 years, because when we brought him home, he was almost 12. So we only have 6 years to get him ready.
Yeah.
You guys have 18 years.
Yeah.
I have 6 years to get him ready. I have to be hard on him. And it's tough love, but I have to be. And I remember one day, he had barely spoke English, and he came home and he said, Mom, I have to memorize all the oceans and all the continents. And imagine English is not your first language and you have to spell Antarctica. I mean, that's pretty rough.
Yeah.
And he said, I can't do this. And I said, can't is in your mind. I said, you will do this because it's just memorization, and I'll work on it with you every single night. And we did it, and he ended up getting, I think he had like one thing misspelled, but he had done all of them. And he said, Mom, you're the only person who's ever thought that I could do something before. And that broke my heart. And now he's really thrived because we tell him, no, there's no excuse, you just have to get it done. And
right.
When he was in South America, he was in 4th grade. He came here, and because of California law, he had to be put in 7th grade. He was so behind, and he was struggling, and we had him in tutoring, and I wouldn't allow Spanish after the first 2 months because I speak Spanish. It's one of my majors in college. I said, we're not going to do Spanish anymore. And the parents said, that's very harsh. And I said, listen, I would rather him struggle so hard that first year and then fit in than feel like he's living in a country he doesn't fit in. He's
Right,
not Colombian,
yeah.
he's
Totally
not
makes
American.
sense.
For 5 years, just floundering. And that was a controversial decision, but now he's been here, and now he translates for some of the kids at his school.
Does he really? That's impressive. That's impressive. The other thing, we're going to get into the acting in a minute, but it's just
that's the least interesting thing, trust me.
But like I said, I read your bio and it's like, really? I could talk about this for an hour. I could talk about this for an hour.
Yeah.
Private investigator as well.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that?
So I've been working with other PIs since I graduated from PI school in 2014.
There's an actual school for private investigators.
Well, not everybody goes to school. Most people are retired law enforcement. But there's a school, and I had gone to I moved out here not to be an actor. I moved out here to be a cop. I went to the LAPD Academy. I had an injury, and that was the end of that. And so I said, well, I wanted to join the police department because I wanted to help people. What can I do? I wanted to be a sex crimes detective, a homicide detective. So I said, well, maybe I could be a PI. Is that a thing? Is it like Magnum PI? What is it? So I had called this place incessantly, and she kept saying, we don't have a class, we don't have a class. So eventually I got in, and I went to PI school. It was 6 months, and it's with a very seasoned investigator in Simi Valley. And then I started working with a couple PIs to get my hours. And you have to have 6,000 hours to get your own license. So now they have a program where you can connect it to another investigator's license if you're almost done, which I've done. Because that's an insane amount of hours. So I opened up my company, Deep Source Investigations, and it's great because when I only take on cases, I can decide what cases I want to take on, but I only take on cases where I feel I'm making a tangible difference or I'm helping somebody. I could take on all the cases of Hollywood and dirt and dig up dirt on people, but that's just not where my heart is. Now I'll do it if they want to pay me a lot of money. And I might do it just, so I could afford to go to Fiji or something. But I love helping people, and it was one of the best choices that I ever made. And it just so happened that a show was looking for somebody who fit what I did. It was a unicorn situation.
How much of it is like the TV shows, or
Oh no.
I assume it's not Magnum PI or anything like that, but on the other end of it, like there was Simon and Simon that used to make jokes about the fact that it was sitting in libraries doing research more than anything else. I mean, what is it mostly?
Oh, most of it nowadays is computer work. Surveillance. I don't do surveillance because, as you can tell, I hydrate way too much. I've drank like 3 cups since we've been here. I hydrate way too much, and there is a thing called a shiwi that you can use, but I just prefer not to pee in cars if possible. So the men...
It's actually called a shiwi?
It's called a shiwi. When I graduated PI school, he gave me one as like a ha-ha funny, but you'll need this, so keep it. Some female investigators use a coffee can. I mean, for me, it's just... I don't like sitting in a car for hours on end, and to be honest with the way I look, people are like, what is that? Why? It's very striking. Like somebody's sitting in this car. Why is this woman sitting in this car? As a redhead, I don't blend in, so it's just something I don't tend to do. Right. So I farm that off. But a lot of it is making calls, making connections. The author Malcolm Gladwell talks about mavens in the society, somebody who connects everybody. And because of all the things that I've done, military and volunteering and acting, I know a ton of people. So a lot of it is just calling somebody, can you help me out with this? You owe me a favor, I owe you a favor, all of this. So a lot of it's phone calls, a lot of it's computer, and very little of it is the stuff that you see on TV. Very little of it.
Very little, but some? Have you been in a car chase?
No, I've tailed people, yes.
Have you really?
Not that they knew I was tailing them, no, but I've done that.
Did you do a Jack Nicholson in Chinatown and kick out the back tail light so you could follow?
No, I definitely did not do any of that. I try not to do anything illegal. I don't do anything illegal because knowing my luck, and PIs, we straddle the line a lot.
Right.
But knowing my luck, I would do one thing that was illegal and then I would get caught. So I just don't. And people come to me and say, I need you to put this tracking device on somebody's car. And I said, that's illegal. I cannot do that unless your name is on the title. And then you have to do it. Right. So yeah, there's a lot of that. I don't peep in people's windows and to be fair, people are very stupid. So they will just do things regardless. I don't have to look in the window. They will make out with their, person they're cheating with on a dance floor.
Right.
People are not doing this behind closed doors.
I'm trying to remember, what was it? The cliche with most private detectives is I want to find out if my spouse is cheating on me thing. Is that true? It is. It is,
but California is a 50-50 state, so if somebody comes to me and says, my husband's cheating on me, I've had people say it was a one-time thing 5 years ago, but I want to nail him. And then recently somebody had said, my husband has been frequenting sex workers, and he's 50, 60 people in the past year. Either way, unless you have a prenup that specifically forbids extramarital affairs, California is community property state, and that's it. So it doesn't matter. And I will tell people, I'm not going to do it because it won't benefit you. You'll spend a lot of money and it won't benefit you. Oh, I just want to know. Most of the time people they don't want to know. They really don't.
Exactly. I always, to me, that attitude is if I was in that position, at least it would be like, look, if you're at a point that you want to hire a private investigator to find this out, you either know or you've already made your decision about what you want to do. You know?
I will say this. There were 2 times that somebody hired me.
Yeah.
And I went back because there was something about it that I read people very well. I'm an actor and I do PI work.
Right.
I read people for a living.
Yeah.
There was something very fishy about it, and 2 of the times I went on my own dime and my own time and followed these people, and they were cheating. So it was just, they were saying their spouse was cheating, followed their spouse, nothing, couldn't find anything. Not saying that they're not, but if I follow you for 2 weeks and nothing's going on, probably nothing.
Right.
And then they were cheating. I'm like, yep. Because after the first one I said, seems like a philanthropist. Followed, boom, right away. So when the second one happened, it was probably 13, 14 months later. Same deal, cheating. So just projecting that, well, I'm cheating, maybe I can catch them cheating, and then I can justify it to myself.
Right. Okay.
Come on now. Come on.
Is that the main thing you do? I mean, other than acting, or what? I mean.
Yes. Oh, I thought you meant is infidelity the main thing I do. Oh gosh. No. I do a lot of connecting birth parents with their children who have been placed for adoption. No, that is generally what I do. So if I'm not auditioning, I'm not volunteering, because I do a lot of volunteering. I do a couple cases a month in my practice, and thankfully I'm in a financial position where I only have to take on ones that I really want to do. So people will email me and I'm just saying, I'm sorry, I'm not available. The investigators that I pass off work to, they love it. They're like, be less available, give us all the jobs. But I just happen to know more people, and so that's why I have, and I work in Hollywood. Everybody wants something done. I have a friend of a friend who's a director who's a...
All right. Well, let's talk about working in Hollywood. The first thing I want to know is, I mean, you had the private investigator thing, you got your degrees, and how many languages do you speak?
Just Spanish.
Just Spanish?
Just Spanish. And my reading and writing is much better than my speaking, because in California you have native speakers, you'll go to translate for somebody and they'll say, oh, I got this.
Right.
And you're like, no, I've got it. I know I'm a whitey, but I got it.
But there's nothing, I mean, it looked like in your bio there was some high school theater and stuff like that, but I mean, where did you jump into acting? How did that happen exactly?
I had done musical theater in high school, and I'd done speech and drama team because, small high school. I wasn't a particularly talented singer. God forbid any of these VHS tapes come up. I'm off key, I admit it. So it wasn't really a thing. And then when I had gotten out, there was a local musical theater group on base, and they said, come audition. And it was only open to active military, retirees, dependents, and reservists. So I thought, well, I'm not that good at musical theater, but if it's limited to a certain amount of people, let me see if I can do this. So I went down, I auditioned, I made like a background, like a chorus character, and did a few shows with them. And then one day I saw one of the guys in the group, he had a commercial on TV, and I said, hey, how'd you do that? And he said, oh yeah, I take classes at this acting place, and I got $400 for the day for doing that. And I was like, whoa, $400 a day? That was a lot of money back in 2004, 2005. And so I started taking acting classes at this place, and I booked my first job 2 weeks in. And
wow.
I just thought, oh, it can't be that easy. And it's not, but I had just...
You got lucky. a little bit. I mean, not to say that you were not talented.
I mean,
but,
I just think, had I known how difficult it was, I never would have went, because I'm very much a linear person. If you work towards this in a linear career, you'll accomplish this. Acting is not like that.
No, absolutely not.
And what drew me to it was I was very ill from the anthrax shots when I had got out, and I could not hold a 9 to 5. There was no way. They were testing me for narcolepsy. They were trying to find out what's wrong with her. Eventually, they gave me a diagnosis that was just kind of BS, because there's no got sick from the anthrax shots box. Now there is, but at the time they didn't recognize that. So I thought, gosh, I can do this and make $400 a day. So I started doing it. I got an agent there. I'd work 1 or 2 days a month. I'd make, from $200 to $1,000 a day, and I was like, okay, I can do this, because I can't work, but I can do this. And then it got to the point where I had booked everything there was in Virginia. It's a very small market. I booked all the TV shows, a couple films that came through. I had 4 local commercials running, so I was just at point of saturation. And for 2 years, I couldn't book anything because the market was just done. And so that's when I started looking at being a cop, and I went back to school and I got a degree in criminal justice to see if I really wanted to do it. So when I moved out to Los Angeles, acting was not even on my mind.
Really?
No, I had completely transitioned, and I was kind of annoyed by the whole thing. Like, I was being limited by geography, and I can't work anymore, and this is a waste of my time, and I'm done with it. So I had completely removed myself from it. In the first 2 years I was out here, I was focused on the pre-academy for LAPD. It's a program called CAPS, where you go and work out incessantly. And I was focused on getting hired. I was not focused on acting. And then when I left the academy, my husband said, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. I've only been a sailor and a college student and a police recruit. I'm not good at anything. I don't know. And he said, well, time's ticking and mortgage has to be paid. So I said, I'll just be an actor. And he said, we need something that makes money. I'm like, I know, just let me see if I can do it. So thankfully I did, but 95% of actors are unemployed, and so it was a gamble, and I didn't know how big of a gamble it was, or I would have ran the other way, honestly.
And how long has it been since you started really breaking it into the industry?
Well, I've really been taking it seriously since 2013, so I started back up in 2013. The stuff I did in Virginia was non-union, it was local.
Right.
I didn't have any SAG credits. I wasn't a member of the union when I moved out here. So, yeah, so to come as far as I have in 6 years, it's I'm very thankful for it.
Yeah. I mean, there are people that struggle for years and never get anything.
It's true.
Let's talk about the new show. It's called, what is it called exactly?
Mysteries Decoded.
Mysteries Decoded. Now, what is the show about? What is the show exactly?
So the show's on the CW Tuesday nights, and it is me as a private investigator. I'm myself.
You're the lead.
I'm the lead.
Okay.
I'm the host, and so I pair up with an expert in the field. So when we went to investigate, did Lizzie Borden really kill her parents?
Right.
In Fall River, absolutely she did. Absolutely she did. I had paired up with a psychic medium who said, listen, I want to try to see if I can talk to her. And of course I was like, give me a break, psychics.
Right. That's what I would say too.
Oh, there's so many eye rolls in that show. If you watch the show and drink every time there's an eye roll, you will be completely drunk by the end of the episode. So, but Stephanie, she's a lovely woman. She's very nice. I loved working with her. So it's always just an expert in the field that I pair up with. And this week's, I'm not sure when this is going to air, but the next episode is about the Montauk experiments, which is cool because that supposedly inspired Stranger Things.
The Montauk experiments, that's interesting. So first of all, the show is on now. I don't watch TV enough to know what things are on or not, so I apologize for not knowing that. But the Montauk experiments a lot of people don't know about those, but they're fascinating because, do you want to tell us a little bit about it? Or?
Well, it's funny because my co-host is Sam Tripoli, who's a character. He hosts a podcast called Tinfoil Hat Podcast, and he's so into conspiracies.
Yeah.
So I don't discount conspiracies entirely, but he's a conspiracy lover.
Right.
So I think I probably said 1 billion times, stop talking about lizard people when we were on the show, and they cut it out, but he was like, it's the lizard people. I'm like, okay, Sam, calm down. He's hilarious. And so the Montauk, he totally believes in the Montauk experiment, Montauk as a whole. For me, it's so many things under this umbrella. I have to look at each claim and judge it on its own merits.
Right.
So supposedly in the Montauk experiments, there was time travel involved. the USS Eldridge and the Philadelphia experiment was involved. Supposedly they tested on children, which is kind of what they do to Eleven and Stranger Things.
Yeah.
There was time travel. There's all these things that are the kidnapping of children.
If I remember correctly, there's actually a guy who claims that he was part of the Montauk experiment.
Stuart Swerdlow?
He's wrote the book that he said time had been altered.
So you might be talking about Preston Nichols and Peter Moon.
Possibly. I just remember reading, fascinating. It's like, well, nobody can really prove him wrong.
There is a book called The Montauk Project. It's by Peter Moon and Preston Nichols. Preston Nichols passed on last year. Peter Moon we interview on the show.
Okay.
Peter Moon, I'm not giving a spoiler because this is in the promo, but he presents me with a patent for a time machine. A time reactor, they call it. So, it's on its... When you first look at it, you think this is just insanity, all of it. But you start investigating the individual claims, and I would say that some of them probably have merit somewhere. And
the Montauk experiment has merit?
I can't give it. I want to talk about it, but I can't because the episode hasn't aired. When will this air?
This will be on after it.
Okay.
So you can talk about it.
All right. So watch the episode. I'm going to give you a bunch of spoilers, but watch it. So we get to interview Dr. Kaku, who is this. I mean, he has a PhD, and he's talking to us about time travel and that it's not possible because you have to harness the power of a black hole and how you do that. Right. So we're talking to him, and then we're watching a video of Preston Nichols, who says that the Montauk Project happened, all these things happen, and he's kind of the person who inspires the least confidence in anybody. He's like talking and he's twiddling his thumbs, and you can see that he's making things up as he goes. And then there are some sources which was not brought up because of course, you want to stay away from anything that's, any allegations. But there are several sources that say that these boys that were kidnapped, there was some pedophilia type things that could have been attached to it. And we wanted to stay away from that because then you get into lawsuits and And I'm saying it's an allegation to protect my butt. I'm not saying it happened or it didn't. But there were a lot of things that went on, and it's so fascinating. We interview a woman named Maya who says that she has time traveled, and she explains a concept called time displacement theory, and it was just so utterly fascinating. One of our guests, Brian Minnick, he had been all over Camp Hero up in Montauk his whole life, and he had taken pictures and he had videos, and so we know that these underground bunkers exist at Camp Hero. So Sam thinks that he thinks it's a conspiracy, and I said, Sam, sometimes blueprints don't adequately show, don't accurately represent what's actually on a military base because it's a military base.
Right.
But of course he thinks it's a conspiracy, and that means there was a lab where they were time traveling. So
I'm gonna have to go up there. I really want to go back in time and like find myself when I was like 20 and punch myself in the face.
Right? I know. If anybody has a time machine, please.
Just find myself and go, get it together, man.
I know. Please, somebody. And a lot of this, I would say, gosh, I wish that was true. I wish it was possible. But is it more about? Is the show more about conspiracies, or is it more about mysteries? The show is historical investigations. Okay. So we look at Lizzie Borden, Salem witches, Mothman, Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, I love Mothman.
Mothman was the last episode. Area 51. So we look at Bigfoot, vampires. We look at these things. I'm always the skeptic who says, come on, show me the proof. Right. And the person I'm with is generally really passionate about the subject. So it is a reality show, though, right? It's a docuseries. Docuseries, okay. It's a docuseries. Bad word, reality was. And I'll say this, you will see, because somebody had called me out for continuity issues. So we're eating, and then I eat, and then they go back to me, my plate's empty. I said, listen, I understand continuity as an actress. I am more focused on having a real conversation with whoever I'm talking to and not asking them to refill my plate. What makes the editing is what makes the editing. We're sitting at breakfast for an hour. It's a 2-minute segment. So yes, I understand that the film people in us says, oh, the continuity. But this is not something where this is acting. This is real. So yes, there's going to be some continuity issues. Things that I'm wearing, because the way they edit the show to make it have the most sense for the viewer. Sometimes I'll wear the same thing on the first day of the investigation that I wear the 5th. It doesn't mean we didn't investigate it. Right. It means that we did, and then the way it was edited. Sure. It seems like someone's nitpicking at that point, I think for the type of show that it is, Well, and I think because the thing is, people want to call it out as fake, and that is not me. I will not do things that are fake. And the executive producer has said on several occasions, that's not her, and if that was her, we wouldn't have hired her. And we've had discussions with one of the segment producers. I said, listen, I'm not going to do that. Oh, but you need to do it. No, I'm not. Yeah. Because if you want a puppet, get a puppet. I'm not going to do it. So I can be quite ferocious on set.
You're a diva?
No, definitely not a diva. I'm very set in my beliefs. I will not do something that I think is
sure.
BS.
Oh, I respect you for that.
I won't do it because...
Give me an example of something that you wouldn't do.
Well, the seance, we did a seance in Lizzie Borden, and I was furious with this. I said, why do I have to do this? This is nonsense. This is horse crap. I'm not doing this. And I said, my entire community of private investigators is going to laugh at me and want to pull my card.
Right.
So I said, I don't want to do it.
Oh, my phone's ringing.
Hey.
Sorry, guys. I thought it was on airplane mode. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
So I refused to do it, and then they filmed us having a discussion about it, and then I said, I'll only do it because she said, I can't do it alone. Then I'm just talking to myself. So I only agreed to do it if I read questions that she had written down on the piece of paper. And I said, don't ask me to do something hooky spooky. Don't ask me to say, ooh, I feel the spirit. No, not doing it. Not happening. And, I think the segment producers we have now in the later episodes, they're really understanding about that. They're like, Jennifer's not going to, let's not.
What's been the most interesting one of the episodes?
Lizzie Borden was, so Montauk is my favorite episode ever, but Lizzie...
That's the one I'm going to definitely watch.
So great, Tuesday at 9. But Lizzie Borden was interesting because I went in there thinking, what a bunch of crap, I'm not doing... And things happened in that room that I can't explain. I don't necessarily know if I believe in ghosts. I don't think we understand how other dimensions work, how crossing over works, how souls work, so I'm open to that. But things happened where I said, I don't know what this is. I was kneeling down. I was in the position that Abby Borden was when her body was found. They said, kneel down, and I was there for about 20 minutes, and I'm getting annoyed because the boots are cutting off my circulation in my legs. And they said, now it's reaching down, and I felt, no kidding, because I thought, I'm not going to feel anything. This is so dumb. Like, let me get up. And then I felt a poke of static electricity, and they cut it out because I cursed. I stood up and went, F this, I'm done. I'm done. I don't know what's going on here. I'm done. So the way they edited it, they did it so I wasn't cursing clearly. Right. And people said, oh, it was just you thought you felt that. I said, listen, I didn't think I'd feel anything. And then this child spirit was coming back, and every time the child spirit came, I would feel this overwhelming sense of, like, euphoria would rush over me, and I would feel this hint of affection. And I said, if we're talking about ghosts, why would I feel that? That's so weird. And there were times we were upstairs, we were off camera, and I felt that euphoria again. And I was like, I don't know what's going on here. And I'm just, on my phone, and the medium says to me, do you feel her? She's next to you again. And that's what made me think maybe this girl sees something I don't.
No, she doesn't.
I would have said the same thing. When I went in, I was like, no way. But it happened on 3 different occasions where I said nothing to her.
Okay.
So I said, you know what? I don't know what this is. I can't explain it. That episode blew my mind because we went in thinking this all was complete BS. Why am I doing this? And things happen that I can't explain. I'm not willing to say, oh, it's a ghosty with the mosty and they're running around. I mean, I don't know, but
I'm willing to say it wasn't.
I don't know. I don't know what it was.
I get you. I'm an eternal skeptic with that kind of stuff. So
I the only psychics and mediums I deal with are frauds and liars. And so when I went in, I said, I'm not trying to insult you. I said, but you have to figure 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 people I've worked with are just liars.
If you, you can read stuff by the amazing Randy, who loves to debunk psychics and stuff like that. And you can, if someone is good at reading body language and tells, about like knowing that you're married because you have a wedding ring, just paying attention to little things. Right. Anybody can come across as a psychic.
Well, what I thought was different with her was I knew she was reading me, of course, right?
Yeah.
And being an actor and a PI, I am very intuitive to that. So I was like, let me give her signs that aren't...
Right.
So I felt like she had met her match. And she still said things that I was like, I don't know how she would know. I don't understand that. And I felt that presence or whatever it was several times after that when I wasn't even thinking about it. There was one time we were at Area 51 and we were in the Jeep when we were outside the gate. and I felt it again, and I just thought, and I wasn't thinking about Lizzie Borden, I wasn't any of that. So I don't know what that is. So I'm willing to say maybe there's a possibility about other dimensions that we don't necessarily
So you have
understand.
a ghost sidekick now?
No, well, no, not anymore. That was the last time I felt
okay.
whatever it
Yeah,
was.
right.
And who knows what it could have been.
Sure.
But I just know that things happened that I thought, oh, this is just a bunch of crap. And then it happened, and I tried to explain it for months. And I didn't do a very good job.
How many episodes did you do of this show?
9.
9.
Yes.
Is there going to be a second season, or do you know?
A second season. It was so hard leaving my kids.
Yeah.
So
How do you balance that? I mean, you have a 5-year-old, right? So I mean, it's got to be incredibly tough. You know, he's getting ready to go start school,
it was very difficult.
and being gone for what was the longest you were gone?
Oh, well, the production company was great because I told them I don't want to leave my kids for more than 7 days.
Right.
So the first trip was 10 days, and I said, no, we talked about this, I'm not doing that.
Right.
So they cut it to 7 days, which made filming hectic and crazy.
Sure, yeah.
But my children come first. So they fly me back. I would shoot, 5 to 7 days. They'd fly back for 1 to 2 days, and then we'd go out again. It was difficult, and we all have problems feeling like bad parents, which in reality I know that's not bad parenting. It's a job and you have to do it, but I don't like putting my children to bed over Skype or over FaceTime.
Right.
And there were many nights I was tearful because I missed them.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. This is supposed to be a summer one-off, and I don't know what they would say if they said season 2, because I get it, a lot of people on TV, they don't have families, but I do, and my kids are very important.
You are kind of unique in the respect that I would say that you're kind of like an up-and-comer as an actress. You've done some stuff of definite notoriety. Sure. And usually when someone's in that position, they don't have a family because they're so focused on their career. It's difficult to have a relationship or a family or something like that.
And that's why I tell people, I'm sure that there are people in Santa Clarita who are trying to be actors. I unfortunately know too many people who are in their 40s and 50s who said, I wish I would have, but I was focused on my career. If you want to have children, you have your children, and your career will happen or it will not.
Absolutely.
But to put off having children for something that may never manifest into anything, to me, I don't understand that. And I'm a prime example. I had my children, and I've still, I went to Hawaii to shoot Hawaii Five-0. I just shot a really great show on CBS last week that is super popular.
Do you want to tell us what it was?
I can't, but it was amazing. It was amazing, and I shoot regularly and I work regularly, and being a parent has made me a better actor because I have to prioritize. When I get those sides, when I get that script, I don't have a bunch of time to be messing around. I have to do it then and there, and I have to be prepared because it's not going to take away time from my kids. So it has made me a much better actor and a much more responsible person to have children.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to close out here. So the show is on Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock on the CW, right after The Flash.
It's after Pandora.
Pandora. What is Pandora? I'm so out of the loop with what's going on with TV these days.
I feel embarrassed to even say I don't know because I don't watch TV. I don't have time. I have a business to run. I have kids, and so the only time I watch TV is if I have to audition for something. I'll watch a couple episodes of it.
Yeah.
I'm literally the worst actor. Quick story before we go.
Yeah.
One day I was at an event at Paramount. It was a We Salute Our Heroes event. So there's a bunch of military. I walked up, I have a conversation with this guy. He's in a Broncos hat. We're talking about the Broncos. I come back, my husband said, oh, what did you talk about? I said, what? I said, I talked about the Broncos. He said, you have no idea who that person is. I said, he likes the Broncos. He said, that's James Caan. I said, I don't know. I said, but I'm sure he enjoyed talking about the Broncos with somebody who didn't necessarily know who he was and want to talk about the movies.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you. I have no idea who anybody is, what anything is.
Well, let me before we wrap up, I do want to ask you this. I am curious because I was trying to break into the industry as a writer for a long time, and when I quit writing, it seems like right after that there was the explosion of subscription services and streaming and things like that. There's so much television now that it's impossible to watch everything. It used to be, like there were 6 shows or whatever that everybody watched, and you could be caught up on everything.
Yep.
And then the weirdo that watches the show that that nobody else watched. But do you feel that work has increased, the availability of work has increased since this kind of explosion of television. They call it the golden age of television now because there's so much going on and so many good shows and things. Do you feel it's gotten harder, or is this about the same, or easier?
There's so many more people doing it.
Yeah.
So there's so many more people doing it, and access is easier than ever. So you have people self-taping for roles.
Yeah.
So yes, there's so many more opportunities, but it's also that there's so many people flooding the space.
Right.
And if you look, and I mean, just to prove that, if you look at people's resumes, a lot of people have 1 or 2 co-stars. And 95% of the actors are doing the work, but if 95% are doing 1 and 2 here and there, it's sucking a large portion of the work out.
Right.
So, I don't know. I would say yes, there's opportunities. It's better than ever for underrepresented groups. So you have a show like Orange is the New Black.
Right.
A show full of women of color, there's trans people on the show. There's it's just a great show where a lot of different people who wouldn't fit in to another show are showcased, and I love that. A show like Pose on FX, it's a show about the trans community.
Sure,
So I think it's better than ever for underrepresented groups, but still, we still have some more work to do. I mean, even a female who books military things, I hear from a lot of people, you don't look military, and so we kind of have to expand. Well, the military is a microcosm of society, so we need to expand the knowledge as to what a vet looks like. It's not always a man. So let's open the door to seeing women.
I think it's great that they've expanded the audience. I mean, or the diversification that exists there. However, it does limit me as far as like writing what I know. It's like old white guy,
Sure. Sure.
But and it seems like now, as far as the demand for writers, it's almost like they've got to be pulling them off the street. It's literally like, hey, let's go down to Skid Row and see if we can find somebody who can write a story. It's just at that level of demand. And
you want to have people who represent the community that you are, and that's one big argument that I make when they say, well, we want to tell veteran stories, but we don't really want to invite vets into the room. I said, that's never acceptable in any other community.
Right, absolutely.
The trans community, you have someone in the writing room, you have people on set, and absolutely, because who are you to tell someone else's story? So I always tell them, you don't have to cast vets, but at least allow them the opportunity to audition.
To have an input, and or to have an input on the story.
Right, hire them as a technical advisor, put a vet in the writing room. We don't ask for a hand out, but a hand up, given we're the subject matter experts in it, sure, and it will make you have a better product. It's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to close things out. First off, what is there anything upcoming that we should be watching for? You said the CBS show that you can't talk about.
No, it's going to air in October.
Okay.
I can't talk about it. I'm so sad. I know. I do have a movie coming out on Netflix in December called Texas Zombie Wars.
Awesome.
And, oh my gosh, it was so great. We shot in the middle of Texas. There's a lot of veterans on set. It was
Is it kind of a horror comedy, or?
No, it's kind of like Walking Dead. It's very grounded, and I play Special Agent Lane, and so Lane she's part of the new government in New Texas, and she has little tolerance for BS. So it was wonderful shooting it, and I'm so excited to have it come to fruition.
Texas Zombie Wars,
yes.
In December on Netflix.
Yes.
Okay, and then your show Mysteries
Decoded.
Mysteries. I don't know why I can't remember that name. I apologize.
That's all right.
Tuesday nights, 9 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I'm live tweeting, so if you're watching it, throw up a tweet #Mysteries Decoded. I love talking to people and seeing what their theories are. Nice.
Okay, so the things I always ask people to talk about on close out the show with. First of all, do you have any tattoos?
I don't.
None? If you're going to get one, where would it be, and what would it be of?
Never.
Never get a tattoo?
I would never. I'm the only Navy sailor who does not have a tattoo, I believe. It's not a thing. I change my mind way too much. I would get something tattooed, and then I would say, I hate this, and I'd spend all this money lasering it off. No tattoo, no desire to get a tattoo.
The second thing is, give me an evil laugh, your most evil laugh that you can give me, evil villain laugh. Wow, now that was good. Right. Now that's acting right there.
I'm losing my voice a little bit, so I was trying my best.
And then the last part is, can I have a joke?
Yes.
Is that a joke? Yes, you can have one.
Yes, okay. All right, so George Clooney and Leonardo DiCaprio and Matthew McConaughey get together to write a movie, to do a movie. See, I'm bad at telling jokes. I already messed it up. So they get together to do a movie, and Clooney says, hey, I'll direct. And Leo says, I'll act. And McConaughey says, all right, all right, all right. All right? He'll write the movie?
I gotcha.
I have bad mom jokes, but that's like an acting joke. So
it took me a moment, but I got it.
It's an easier joke when you read it. So,
well,
no one hire me for a comedy show.
When you become super, super, super famous, will you come back on the show?
I hope that never happens because I value my privacy. But if that were to ever happen, yes, I would just have like a Groucho Marx mustache or something. I'd have to be on the down low.
Okay.
I hope that never happens. That's my nightmare. Is I like right now where sometimes people recognize me, but not all the time, and I can just go to Costco and do my thing.
Well, you don't have to worry about with this Dog and Pony show. We have like 7 listeners.
That's fine. 7 listeners. That's fine.
All right. Well, Jennifer, I really do appreciate you coming on the show. It's been a lot of fun talking to you.
Yeah.
Wish you much luck with your career and your private investigating and everything else in your life. So,
thank you. I appreciate it, Stephen. Thanks so much.
All right. We hope you guys enjoyed the talk.
You've been listening to the Talk of Santa Clarita. Listen to us on iTunes, SoundCloud.com, YouTube, and Stitcher. Barring a life event getting in the way, a new podcast is available every Tuesday. Questions, comments, and show ideas can be sent to thetalkofsantaclarita@gmail.com. You can also call or text us at 661-505-8672. That's 661-505-8672. Follow us on Twitter at The Talk of SC or on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Talk of Santa Clarita. You can also visit our website by going to www.thetalkofsantaclarita.com. This has been a production of Radio Free Santa Clarita Incorporated, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. To donate, go to radiofreesantaclarita.org/donate. Radio Free Santa Clarita, on the net and on the air, and we're very much aware.
Any questions?